Hello, and welcome to another edition of Dr. Says This About That. I am Dr. Cedric Wood, and I've got something to talk about today. I've been giving it a lot of thought the last 4 days. That's right, 30th, 31st, and then the 1st and 2nd of January 2026. What's on my mind? It's partially something that's been on my mind for 30 or 40 years. But the idea is growing and growing. And let me see if I can summarize it. All these terrible shootings and murders, Rob Reiner and his wife, Melissa, stabbed to death, horrifying, terrible. Why? Well, if I said what I think is why, you would probably think that I am not being genuine. But as a family therapist, I believe in what I do. And so if they had gone to see a family therapist, Rob and Michelle would have learned how to speak to Nick in a more kind and caring and calming way. And they certainly wouldn't have gotten into a big argument the night they were brutally murdered. It wouldn't have happened. So, who is their family therapist? Possible that they didn't even have one, which is unthinkable to be dealing with a grown son with so many drug problems, but other problems too. I don't think he was a perfectly nice, normal, centered guy who had drug problems. He probably had, yes, I'm going to diagnose him, schizoaffective disorder. If you read Peter Langman's book, School Shooters, and especially if you read the story of Dylan Klebold, you can compare the two young men. And it's very possible that Nick had many of the same feelings about life and about others and about girls. And what is necessary with a young man like that? Well, many people would say, well, he needs to get therapy if he's struggling with those kind of self-esteem, sense of self issues. Well, I'm not opposed to that. Obviously, I'm right here. I'm a therapist. But more importantly, it's family therapy that needed to take place, where the three of them, and maybe the other two kids too, showed up. They sat in a room much like this one and discussed feelings, thoughts, regrets, expectations, worries, and in ways that we're proud of you. The list goes on and on. So, why didn't that happen? Another thing I want to talk about, and that is if there had been a class in California for Nick when he was 14, 15, 16 in mental health and well-being, he could have very well have had an experiential experience being taught mental health and well-being techniques and concepts and ideas, and he might have grown into a more mature person, certainly a more sober person. But I'd be willing to bet he did not take a class like that. So my mind is just really struggling to comprehend how so many people in these five categories, might be more, parents are not interested in getting family therapy and having the teachers at school teach their child mental health and well-being. Number two, the teachers and the principals and the superintendents aren't interested in making sure there is a substantial number of hours for a graduate from high school to have had. I'm going to put forth a number, 100. Every graduating senior from high school should have had 100 hours of experiential instruction. So it's not just a teacher sitting there and teaching about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, here's your test. Let's see if you can remember what they are. No, it's a way of interacting that causes the child's brain to light up. Oh, is that a real concept? Can you do that? Am I okay for dreaming of this? A young woman these days was on in the Grand Ole Opry. Young meaning, I don't know, 32. And good for her. She's becoming a successful country western singing performer. She tells a story of being in high school, and the counselor said, what would you like to be? What would you like to study in college or be when you grow up? And the young lady said, I'd like to be a singer, a performer. And the school counselor said, well, that's stupid. The counselors need education. Don't ever say something like that. It wasn't stupid. It was her dream. It was who she was. And by golly, she's succeeding at it. All teenagers need to be growing, need to be nurtured in order to grow into the best person they can be. And the best place for that to happen is in a class, maybe 2 classes, maybe 3, because I'm saying that they need to have 100 experiential instruction hours when they graduated. And I'm also going to come up with a list of 100 concepts. I have my step 1, step 2 concepts here. This would be one of the 100. These are your basic communication skills, and then you should say that first, and then you go to the second side, and that's the thing that you would normally say. Like, I wish you would clean this place up. Nobody needs to have that taught to us. What we need to have taught to us is, as parents, to say, I know you're tired, I know you're busy, you're involved in sports, and I know you don't really care about the tidiness of your room, but for me, could you help me kind of clean up your room, please? Step 1, step 2. That would be one of 100 concepts that they need to learn in order to what? I've come up with an acronym. Mental health and well-being. That's the name of the class. Let me start over. What would you be learning? HRPC, healthy relationships, parenting, and communication. Okay? That's what this class would be about. And they should be learning at least 100 concepts that I'd like to think most therapists know about, but may not go over themselves, because so many of the concepts I would have on that list, I didn't learn in my 200 graduate hours in what? Psychology, counseling, and family therapy. They just weren't there. Well, where did I learn them? Right there. You see those books? Books upon books, and there's a ton of them over there where I learned concepts of healthy relationships and healthy communication. The first one I read was recommended to me by my father. You need to read this book here, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Excellent book. That's what got my brain started. I read that book before I ever took Psychology 301, years before, because I was a film major. Well, maybe someday I'll make a film on this whole movement that needs to take place. What's the movement? Let me go over those groups of people. Parents, I'd like to think, would want a class. Teachers and superintendents. I'd like to think that psychologists and all mental health professionals around Texas and across the country would want a class like this to help our young people be as healthy as possible. And our state senators and representatives, why aren't they interested? I've talked to them, I've talked to their staff, and they're always very kind and cordial and listen very well, but they never report back to me that their boss, the senator or representative, said, great idea. Let's write that up and propose that in the spring of 2025, 2023, 2021, 2019, 2018. They just can't get it. They don't get it up here about how important this would be. And when you see things like the murders of 2 wonderful people, much loved entertainers, and just about a year ago today, on January 1st, 2025, a man from Houston got in his car and drove all the way to New Orleans, got there, and just started barreling down the street full of revelers in the French Quarter. killing, I think, 14 and injuring maybe 50. Horrible, hideous, tragic. He needed to have taken this class when he was in high school to change the brain structure and even chemistry so that he would know what to do when he became exasperated with life and started thinking about thoughts about killing people. He would have made a different decision. And certainly this summer with Brian Koberger, even though it happened a few years ago, it was in the news all summer about how he killed, stabbed to death four lovely young college students. And he finally, in order to avoid the death penalty, he said, yes, I did it. He admitted to it. Why? Why did he plan that whole thing and feel the need to take a knife and go and stab him? Not once, not twice, but over and over again. Horrifying. Why did Robinson, what's his first name, just plan to get a gun, a rifle? I think it might have been his grandfather's, and he went to the shooting range to make sure he was good at making a sure shot. And so he drives 200 miles to where, I'm blanking on his name. Uh, uh, anyway, the speaker, conservative speaker, and pointed the gun at Charlie Kirk right at his neck and pulled the trigger. How does your brain become so depraved that you don't care about him and his life, don't care about his wife, don't care about his two children, don't care about the millions across the country that loved him and loved what he was saying? I don't care. I don't care about them. I want to kill him. It's mind-boggling. But back to my point, if he'd had a class in mental health and well-being when he was in high school, I'll bet, I know he would have been changed in this class, one, maybe 2 semesters of it. And he probably could have had some family therapy with his mom and dad, because you don't arrive at that place in your mind without some parent-child interactions that are stressful and unhappy. I'll just put it that way. Sorry, mom and dad. I know you're sitting there going, we're innocent. We loved our kids. But something went very wrong for him to think that was okay to get that rifle and go and kill Tyler Robinson, go and kill Charlie Kirk. Tragic, horrifying. And so that's my goal for today, is to impart to you. I'm letting you know I'm going to be pushing for every graduate program. That's the fifth group that I was talking about. The people that are teaching in the graduate programs in counseling, marriage and family therapy, psychology, social work, maybe even psychiatry. Maybe they can care. They should be teaching their students about caring about all the kids in Texas, not just the ones that come in to see them because they're kind of depressed and suicidal. They're learning great techniques to deal with them. But there's so many more that don't show up in front of the therapist. Okay? And so we've got to care about them. How do we get this bill passed requiring them to take a class in their high school years? Some people say, well, they ought to start in junior high. I'm in favor of, I'm not against that. Go for it. That's what I tell them. I will support you. I will sign off on your initiative. But I'm focusing on high school. That's where their brains are mature enough and yet still malleable enough to take this information in and grow and learn and not get into a car drunk and drive 110 miles an hour and kill people. Shocking. And so I've come up with an acronym: murderers, that's M, school shooters, and deadly car drivers, DCDs. We don't want them to become a DCD. We don't want them to become MSDs. That's the acronym. Please. But everyone that does become that, something happened in their childhood. They did not get their needs met, period. So we are failing at reaching the young people that will be parents someday, and we're failing at reaching the people that are parents right now with 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15 and 20-year-olds. So that's why I'm on the board of advisors of ARC, Adults Relating to Kids. And if you will please send in your donation to ARC, it will support an excellent nonprofit organization out of Houston, Texas. We are going to be giving training to foster parents so they can be the best parents they can be to their foster kids. Not that long ago, I was working in a psychiatric hospital and talked to a number of young people that were foster kids, and they reported to me their parents were not good parents. I'll just summarize it that way. And so these young people were very unhappy with how they were being treated because they weren't trained. Would we hire an engineer that's never gone to engineering school? Would we hire a plumber that's never gone to trade school and really learned how to do plumbing? I just was interested in it, so they gave me a job last week, and so I'm here at your home to do your plumbing. No, young man, go get educated first, then come. But every day, we have millions of parents who are given the job to be a parent, and there's no education. If we want to stop these horrible tragedies of school shootings and murders, just the other day, a few miles north of here in Frisco, Texas, a past city manager of Frisco, Texas, and his wife were murdered by their son, their grown son. Something was way off there, and I think you know what I'm going to say it is. Please, if you have children, read the parenting books. I should have them just right here next to me so you could see them. And if you don't want to read the parenting books, then call me. I can do a session online or over the phone. But I'd prefer if you came to see me right here in my office. 214-394-4040. Give me a call. This is Dr. Cedric Wood. Thank you for listening. That's my New Year's agenda for 2026. I hope you have a New Year's agenda to help people to be the best people they can be, happy and healthy. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.